Good evening. Tonight, the world stands still. Two names that once symbolized quiet elegance and unwavering chemistry have just rewritten their story in one night of unbearable truth. Gong Yoo and Soo-jung, a couple that had long been seen as the epitome of calm, lasting love, have broken their silence, and with it, the illusion of perfection. For 2 years, their relationship survived in whispers, hidden glances, and wordless understanding. A couple of scandals or headlines, they were the pair people believed in, two souls whose connection seemed untouchable. But love, even the purest kind, hides shadows. Last night, under the glow of hundreds of cameras and the trembling murmur of reporters, the two finally spoke. Their words weren't rehearsed. Their eyes weren't calm. What began as a romantic dream ended with a revelation that no one, not even their closest fans, saw coming. The truth wasn't loud. It was enough to shake every heart that once believed in forever. And as the confession echoed across Seoul, one question lingered in every mind. What could have broken a love that once seemed unbreakable? The night Seoul lost its breath began like any other, quiet, glittering, and full of illusions. The city pulsed with a familiar hum of life. Neon lights reflecting in rain puddles. Taxis crawling through narrow streets. Lovers walking hand in hand. No one knew that, somewhere behind velvet curtains and blinding flashes, a story was coming to its end. At 9:57 p.m., the news broke. A single headline appeared online. Small and almost cautious at first. Gong Yoo and Soo-jung to hold urgent press conference. In minutes, it spread like wildfire. Phones buzzed. Tweets exploded. Fans flooded comment sections with panic and disbelief. Why now? Why them? For 2 years, their love had been quiet, mature, almost sacred. No scandals. No drama. No careless words. They had seemed untouchable, two seasoned actors who had found peace in each other after years of loneliness in the spotlight. Their romance was the kind of story that made people believe in gentle things again. But tonight, something was breaking. Inside a hotel ballroom in Gangnam, reporters filled every seat. The air was thick with tension. And that vibrates before a storm. Bright lights lit up the podium. But the atmosphere was heavy. The silence unbearable. Every flashbulb felt like a countdown. At exactly 10:03 p.m., they appeared. Soo-jung walked in first. Dressed in a simple black dress. Her hair pulled back neatly. Her eyes were calm. But her hands betrayed her, trembling slightly, clutching a folded note. Behind her came Gong Yoo, tall, poised, but visibly strained. His usually warm smile was gone. Stood side by side. Close but not touching. The space between them said more than any scandal could. For a long moment, no one spoke. The cameras clicked. Then Gong Yoo leaned toward the microphone. "Thank you for coming so late," he said quietly. "We know you have questions. And tonight, we will try to answer them." Soo-jung took a breath. "We've kept this secret for too long," she said, voice breaking slightly. "Perhaps by doing so, we hurt not only each other, but everyone who believed in us." A murmur swept through the room. Reporters leaned forward, fingers ready. The confession had begun. 2 years earlier, their story had seemed written in gold. It started during the filming of a quiet, melancholic drama about two people who fall in love too late. Their chemistry was undeniable, the kind that makes even the crew forget their acting. Every glance lingered. Every laugh carried something unsaid. When filming ended, they promised to stay friends. But friendship has a way of turning into something softer when the cameras stop rolling. Their first real meeting after the drama wasn't in a restaurant or an event. It was at a small bookstore in Samcheongdong, where they both arrived by coincidence, or fate. She was looking for a poetry book. He was hiding from the noise of the world. They laughed about it. Then shared coffee. And when they parted, the city seemed quieter, as if holding its breath. From that day, they were inseparable. They never flaunted their love. There were no matching clothes. No secret getaways caught by paparazzi. They lived privately, quietly, finding comfort in simplicity. Dinner at home. Long drives along the Han River. Reading scripts together in silence. Theirs was not a love built for headlines. It was built for peace. But peace never lasts long in the world of stars. First fracture appeared in their second year. Gong Yoo began filming an intense thriller overseas, while Soo-jung prepared for a new series that demanded emotional exhaustion. They spent months apart. their schedules overlapping like shadows, never touching, always close. At first, they managed calls, messages, late-night video chats. But distance has a way of turning affection into misunderstanding. "You sound tired," she'd say. "I'm fine," he'd reply. "Always fine," she whispered once. More to herself than to him. There were rumors of on-set chemistry with co-stars, of jealousy, of arguments behind the scenes. Neither confirmed nor denied. But the warmth between them began to fade, replaced by something colder, quieter. Love didn't disappear. Simply grew tired. And when love gets tired, truth starts to demand attention. 3 months before the conference, at a small rooftop restaurant overlooking Seoul. It was raining, not heavily. Just enough to blur the city lights. "I think we're pretending," she said softly, her voice lost in the wind. He didn't answer right away. He stared at the skyline instead. The same skyline that had once been their refuge. "Maybe we are," he finally said. Didn't argue. There were no tears, no raised voices. Just silence, the kind that breaks louder than any fight. "Let's not end it with lies," she said. "What do we tell them?" "The truth," she replied. "Even if it hurts." That was the night they decided to confess. To destroy what they had. But to free what remained of it. Back in the press room, tension was suffocating. "We didn't fall out of love," Gong Yoo said. His tone heavy but sincere. "We just realized that love alone wasn't enough." Soo-jung nodded, her eyes glistening. "We wanted to protect what we had, but sometimes protecting something means you stop living it." Reporters typed furiously, flashes blinding. Flying, was there someone else? Were there fights? Did fame tear them apart? But neither of them played the scandal's game. They spoke gently, respectfully. Like two people standing at the edge of a story they once called home. There was no betrayal. Only time. And how it changes people. He looked at her then, not as a partner, not as an ex, but as someone he had shared something irreplaceable with. "Wanted to tell you this ourselves," he said. "Love doesn't disappear just because it ends." It wasn't the confession anyone expected. It wasn't rage or regret. It was tenderness, the kind that hurts even more. The internet, however, is never kind. Midnight, social media was on fire. Some fans wept. Others accused them of faking the relationship all along. There were theories about secret affairs, about contracts, about manipulation. But amidst the chaos, a single clip from the conference went viral, a moment when the cameras caught Gong Yoo reaching out instinctively, brushing a tear from her cheek before pulling his hand back. No words. No explanations. Just a gesture, simple, human, heartbreaking. People replayed it endlessly. Some called it proof that they still loved each other. Others said it was just habit. But those who understood love saw it for what it was, a final act of care between two souls who had run out of time. After the conference, they walked out separately. Outside, the night air was cold. Rain had begun to fall again. Soft and relentless. Gong Yoo stood by his car, looking up at the sky. Reporters shouted his name. Flashes exploded around him. But his mind was elsewhere. He remembered their first night together, how she had laughed when he got lost driving. How she had fallen asleep on his shoulder, whispering something he never quite heard. He smiled faintly, then got into his car and drove away. Across the city, Soo-jung returned to her apartment alone. She placed her note, the one she had read from, on the table beside an old framed photo of them laughing in the sun. For a moment, she stared at it. Then turned it face down. The rain grew heavier. In the quiet of her living room, she whispered, "Thank you." And it wasn't clear if she meant him. Years they shared. Or simply the fact that it was finally over. That night, fans left thousands of messages online. Some angry. Some heartbroken. Some grateful. One comment stood out. They didn't fall apart. They just stopped pretending they were whole. By morning, every newspaper carried the story. Gong Yoo and Soo-jung end 2-year relationship with tearful honesty. No scandal, no lies, only truth. Industry built on illusions. Their confession felt like a rebellion, not against love, but against the need to fake it. And as the sun rose over Seoul, the city felt different. Quieter. More human. The next morning, The city was quieter than it had any right to be. Still bustled. But something about the air had changed. Newsstands displayed the same photograph on every front page, Gong Yoo and Soo-jung standing side by side under the harsh white lights of the press hall, their faces calm, their eyes full of unspoken sorrow. It was more than a breakup. It was a moment of raw honesty in a world that didn't know what to do with the truth. In the days that followed, the noise of speculation only grew louder. Commentators debated endlessly. Psychologists analyzed their body language. Fans uploaded tribute videos spliced with their movie scenes, their interviews, their laughter from the early days. Internet clung to every detail, as if dissecting love could make it live again. But behind the screens, the two people at the center of the storm vanished. For the first time in years, he switched off his phone. He left Seoul quietly, taking a train to Busan, where the ocean stretched endlessly and no one called his name. He rented a small seaside house. The fridge with nothing but coffee and instant noodles. Spent his mornings walking along the cold shore. He thought of her often, not in anger or longing, but in a strange stillness. He remembered how she used to stop mid-conversation, close her eyes, and listen when it rained. She had said once, "Rain is the only applause that doesn't expect a smile back." Now he understood. Every night, the waves crashed outside his window like the sound of forgotten applause. I'm Soo-jung, meanwhile. Day behind in Seoul. She continued to work, interviews, scripts, appearances, but something in her had changed. Reporters noticed it too. Her smiles were softer now, her eyes deeper, as though she had finally stopped performing even when the cameras were on. She turned down romantic dramas. Instead, chose a film about solitude, a quiet story about a woman learning to live alone after the end of something beautiful. When asked if the role reflected her life, she simply said, "Maybe every role does." The film was small, almost invisible among blockbusters, but critics called it her most powerful performance in years. One reviewer wrote, "I'm Soo-jung doesn't act loneliness, she understands it." A month after the press conference, their agencies released a joint statement. Parties remain supportive of one another and ask for privacy as they begin new chapters of their lives. It was standard, clinical, and expected. But hidden between the lines was something gentler, an acknowledgement that what they shared had mattered. That night, Gong Yoo sat on his porch overlooking the sea. He poured himself a cup of soju and stared at the dark horizon. He thought of the first time they met, the bookstore. The way she had laughed quietly when he dropped a book. It wasn't pain he felt now. It was gratitude. He took out his phone, opened a blank message, and typed, "You were right. The truth hurts less than the lie." He deleted it and set the phone aside. Fast, as it always does, the headlines faded, news scandals took over, and the world moved on. But memories lingered in small, stubborn ways. Sometimes fans would spot them separately, Gong Yoo at a small art gallery in Tokyo, Soo-jung at a cafe in Jeju, both smiling, seemingly at peace. Sometimes, during interviews, someone would mention the other's name, and for a split second, the same expression crossed their faces, not regret, not ache, but a quiet warmth. They didn't unfollow each other on social media and erase old photos. They simply stopped pretending the past was something to hide. 6 months later, an unexpected event brought their paths together again. The film festival that had once introduced them as co-stars invited them both to appear as presenters. Neither had planned to accept, until they learned the other would be there. Perhaps it was coincidence. Perhaps not. The night of the event was cold and glittering. The red carpet was a river of flashes and noise. Reporters whispered nervously, would they greet each other? Would they avoid it? Then, when the cameras turned, it happened. She was already on stage when he walked out to present the award. Fans gasped softly as they met eyes under the blinding spotlights. For a heartbeat, the world went silent. He smiled first, small, real, almost shy. She returned it. A mirror of the same quiet grace. No words, no drama, just two people acknowledging that something once beautiful had existed between them. And that was enough. They read the winner's name together. Applause thundered. And the moment passed. But for everyone watching, it felt like closure, not the end of love, but its transformation into peace. That night, when the crowd dispersed and the lights dimmed, She found a single white rose waiting in her dressing room. No note. No name, just a flower. She didn't need either. She took it home, placed it in a glass of water, and left it by her window. Across the city, Gong Yoo stood on his balcony. The same kind of rose in his hand. He looked up at the stars, their faint light flickering through the city haze, and let out a soft laugh. "Good night," he whispered. Years later, when both had drifted into different seasons of life, their story became something like legend, not a scandal, not a tragedy, but a memory that people still spoke of in quiet admiration. Younger actors would mention them as the example of what it means to part with dignity. Fans would post clips of their old interviews, writing captions like "They taught us that love doesn't need to last forever to be real." Never worked together again, but their names were always spoken in the same breath, as if destiny had written them side by side in the same sentence, forever connected by that night when truth became braver than silence. One winter morning, long after their story had faded from the spotlight, a journalist visiting a remote village in northern Japan stumbled upon a small tea house by the river. The owner, a middle-aged woman with gentle eyes, served tea and wrote haikus on scraps of paper. On the register was different, but her voice, soft and melodic, was unmistakable. When asked if she missed acting, she smiled and said, "No. But I still love stories." On her wall hung a framed photograph, a distant shot of two people standing on a bridge, hands barely touching. Is lost in mist. And somewhere else, in another country, Gong Yoo was filming a movie about second chances. During an interview, when asked what the film meant to him, he replied quietly, "It's about telling the truth, even when it ends everything. Because that's how you start again." Interviewer asked, "Do you still believe in love?" He smiled. "Always. But I believe more in honesty." That evening, after the film wrapped, he walked alone through a quiet street. Snow began to fall, soft and slow. He pulled his coat tighter and looked up at the sky. No reason at all. He thought of her, the way she'd close her eyes when it rained, the way she'd whisper goodnight even when he'd already fallen asleep. He didn't ache anymore. He simply hoped she was warm somewhere, maybe smiling over a cup of tea, maybe listening to the rain again. The snow fell thicker, covering the city in silence, and as he disappeared into it, one truth lingered. Some loves don't end when people part. They end when both finally find peace. Because sometimes, the bravest thing two hearts can do is stop holding on, and start remembering gently. The night of truth had taken away their love. It had given them something far rarer, freedom. In that freedom, their story quietly lived on, not in headlines, not in rumor, but in the hearts of those who still believe that honesty, however painful, is the purest form of love. When all the lights dim and the cameras turn away, what remains is not fame, nor image, perfection, but the quiet echo of two hearts that once spoke the same language. Gong Yoo and Soo-jung's story was never about scandal. It was about truth, the courage to end something beautiful with honesty instead of letting it rot behind lies. They showed the world that love doesn't fail when it ends. It fails only when it becomes afraid to be real. World obsessed with forever. They chose something rarer, sincerity. They didn't promise eternity. They promised truth, and they kept it. So when we look back on their story, may we remember not the tears, not the rumors, but the bravery of two people who dared to speak their truth in front of the world, and walked away with their dignity intact. Because sometimes, the most faithful kind of love is the one that lets go. For every reader who has journeyed to the end of this story, thank you. Thank you for listening to the silence behind the words, for seeing the love behind the heartbreak, and for believing that even endings can be gentle. This story belongs to everyone who has ever loved honestly, lost quietly, and survived with grace. May you always choose truth over illusion, peace over pride, and the kind of love that doesn't need witnesses to be real. The author.